Hope everybody's doing okay. Very, very sad day. It is the Evening Edge, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7. What a tragic, sad day here in the Miami Valley. When I got the breaking news alert on my WHIO app, I just caught my breath. I can't imagine what the parents of that student is feeling who died this morning in Clark County. The first day of school. And we don't have details, not that we should at this point, of the student's identity or how old the student was or what grade they were in. But this was an elementary school. Just so devastating. And you've got a bus full of kids excited, seeing their friends, heading to school, ready to take on, the challenges, and wasn't to be for that one student. Could have been a lot worse. It's pretty damn bad, but it could have been a lot worse. Dozen students transported to hospitals by medics. 10 students were taken, I guess, by their parents for treatment. No information really on the extent of some of these other injuries. But a few minutes ago, sitting here in the studio, I watched the bus being towed away on a video on News Center 7, and just destroyed in the middle of the bus. If what I saw after it was lifted up, right in the middle, on the top, just smashed in. It's just heartbreaking. And Kayla McDermott had a woman a mom who had kids on the bus, who saw the medics racing down the road after her kids got on the bus, and she thought, I think I ought to follow. And she came upon the accident. I I just can't imagine. I can't imagine that. And fortunately, her children survived, but both obviously shaken, one injured for sure. It's just so tragic. And I know that the folks there in Clark County, state troopers, deputies, police, medics, everybody are investigating this. But I'd really be interested to know what caused this this vehicle, this Odyssey, to go left of center. Because we've talked about this so many times on the show in regards to cars crashing into buildings. And one of the biggest problems is driver inattention. Now, the person driving had a passenger with them. You know, were they talking? Were they not paying attention? Who knows? Was he texting? I mean, it's first thing in the morning. People are heading to work. So I hope they can get to the bottom of this and figure out what caused this. Not that it's going to be any relief to anybody. But you need to be able to wrap your mind around this and understand what led to the death of this child and the injury to nearly 24. I mean, my son used to ride the bus. And I just can't even imagine ever feeling comfortable putting my child back on a bus after experiencing something like that. You'd really have to think about it. However, statistically, according to the National Highway Safety Transportation Administration, kids are safer on the school bus than they are in your car. Now, over the years, I've seen stories where, sadly, we've had incidents like this, whether it's just a minor fender bender with a school bus and another vehicle, or something tragic like today. Channel 7 ran some video from an accident that happened maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago in Tennessee, where 8 children were killed. And the question always comes up about seatbelts and whether or not school buses should have seatbelts. And there's a lot of science that goes into this. And I looked into this today, and I'm not going to go through it all. It's there on the National Highway Safety Transportation Board website. But there's reasons why they say school buses don't need seatbelts. But here's my thought on this. I could be wrong, but I feel like drivers have become less attentive over the last couple of decades. I think most of us can agree, which means that they're traveling at, sometimes higher rates of speed than what they used to. Back when I was going to school in the 70s and 80s and didn't ride or didn't have seatbelts on the school bus. People didn't have the distractions then as they do now. And I'd be curious to know if there have been more school bus related accidents. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. But if we're seeing an uptick in the number of school bus accidents or the severity, maybe we need to look at requiring school buses to have seatbelts. 9 other states in the U.S. require it. Ohio's not one of them. Just a very tragic day here in the Miami Valley. And, this is a local talk show, and that's why I'm here to talk about these things. Yeah, we have fun with crazy stuff in the news, but this is also a sounding board for people here in the Miami Valley. So if you want to talk about what happened, you have thoughts on it. Maybe you knew people and, families that had children on that bus. Or you have thoughts on seatbelts and bus safety, the whole deal. 937-457-1290.
It's the Evening Edge with Todd Hollst.
Call Todd now, 937-457-1290, or message him at Evening Edge Todd.
Locally grown, seriously funny on WHIO.
Jeff, yeah. I mean, and here's the thing, is it's like, if you're not paying attention, you're on your cell phone, you're not aware of your surroundings. And I really I'd love to know if there have been more school bus accidents over the years, more recently than used to be. I'm looking it up right now. That's why I'm sort of in my head, but Leslie, I remember that. I remember that accident. And I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, there's a marker down there. Wasn't that in the 80s, Leslie? And I want to say that was a church group, maybe? I think it was like a church bus, wasn't it? And, most church buses, at least back then, probably still today, but they were just old school buses. Yeah, that's what I thought. It was sometime in the 80s. Because I remember after that happened, there was kind of like people talking about the safety of church buses. And I don't know if they still do that anymore. I'm assuming they do. Back here on the Evening Edge, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7. Taking your calls, talking about the tragedy this morning in Clark County. Elementary school-age student lost their life in a school bus accident. So we're talking about that, talking about school bus safety. If you have any thoughts on either of those discussion topics, 937-457-1290. Kimberly in Springfield. Hi, Kimberly.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. I was just calling in. My granddaughter goes to Northwestern, and she would have been on that bus if she had gone to the sitters this morning. She doesn't. She's a little older, so she doesn't do that. She did last year, but this year she isn't.
Right.
But it's just heartbreaking to know that if she could have been on that bus.
Yeah.
And I just feel for those families.
I just don't know how you can get to the point where you would feel comfortable putting your child back on a school bus.
Exactly. I feel for her parents because, by what has happened. And they know the families.
Yeah.
And it's just really hard for them.
Yeah, I feel you, Kimberly. I completely do. I appreciate your call, and thank God that that your child wasn't on that bus this morning. 937-457-1290. We'll take more of your calls coming up.
The Evening Edge with Todd Hollst.
Call Todd now, 937-457-1290, or message him at Evening Edge Todd.
Locally grown, seriously funny on WHIO.
What I read online from the National Transportation Safety Board Administration, whatever, talks about that school buses, they say, are, I guess, safer. Let me see here. Let me find it real quick. The NHTSA decided the best way to provide crash protection to passengers of large school buses is through a concept called compartmentalization. This requires that the interior of a large school bus protect children without them needing to buckle up. Through compartmentalization, children are protected from crashes by strong, closely spaced seats that have energy-absorbing seat backs. That's what they say. And I thought I have to ask Ron a question. Back here on the Evening Edge, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7. Taking your calls, comments about the tragedy this morning in Clark County. A student there at Northwestern local school district was killed in a school bus accident. 20 others were injured. And when I heard about this today, I immediately went to social media to see what people were talking about, what they were saying, what their feelings were. Inevitably, the conversation of seatbelts came up. I mean, it was like maybe like the 7th or 8th comment that I saw was about seatbelts. And we kind of talked about this a little bit, that 9 states in the U.S. require seatbelts for school buses. Ohio is not one of them. The National Highway Safety Transportation Board says that they decided the best way to provide crash protection to passengers of large school buses is through a concept called compartmentalization. Excuse me. This requires that the interior of large buses protect children without requiring them to buckle up. Through this process, children are protected from crashes by strong, closely spaced seats that have energy-absorbing seat backs. Now, that may be the case, but I have a question, and I thought that I saw this morning early in the coverage, but I don't see it in the story that I printed out. That sadly, the student who lost his life, I thought I heard somewhere that student was ejected from the bus. And I'm wondering if because of the heat, the windows of the bus were down, and if this was obviously an elementary student, small enough that could fit through a window. I wonder if that's what happened. It's horrible to imagine that and to picture that. But I'm wondering if that's what it was, because then in that case, I don't know that their report about having the seats closer together and having more padding would have helped. I don't know. But we're taking your calls, 937-457-1290. Lisa in Maria Stein. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well.
I just wanted to say, as a bus driver,
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the bus driver.
Yeah.
And I know you made a comment about seatbelts. Honestly, if you would put seatbelts in the bus to try to monitor them all, would be very hard. Also, they would most probably have to put more buses on the road because you wouldn't be able to have 3 seatbelts to a seat.
Oh, really? I don't know how that would work. I mean, I don't know. I guess that makes sense because those seats are pretty small to begin with, right? The little benches, and to try to put enough space for 3 seatbelts might be
Correct.
a bit challenging. I saw someone else comment, and this sounds so silly, but it's true. It's a reality that if you've got seatbelts on these buses and the buckles are metal, you've got kids using them as weapons.
Could.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's true.
Right. Also, another thing is if the bus is on its side and all the seatbelts are buckled and they can't get out of them, the bus driver is going to have to try to rip everyone off with a cutter, and that's very time consuming too. So that's just an insight of, as a driver, what you would have to look at. Well, especially
if there's a fire. I mean, if you're in an accident and a fire ignites, you can't be trying to, like you said, you can't be trying to unbuckle a bus full of kids. There's just no way.
Passengers.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Our buses are 84 passenger.
84?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot. That's a lot of kids to try to get out of a burning bus.
Correct.
Yeah.
So so when people say they need seatbelts, look at it the other perspective of that way. It's one of the reasons why I called.
No, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you for your insight. James in Dayton. Hi, James.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, what's going on?
I was just thinking, this is an example of why I'm a big fan of autonomous vehicles. Think about it.
Autonomous vehicles, you say?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, think about it. A majority or every vehicle is autonomous, right? You got everything running off the internet or the grid or however you want to put it.
Maybe
You
newer
now
cars.
eliminate-
Newer cars. Maybe, there's still many, many cars on the road that don't have that ability.
Well, yeah, all we got to do is raise, outlaw it, raise gas prices, make it so you got to buy them. I mean, everything gets phased in and phased out.
Right.
But if you had everything running autonomous, you now take out distracted driving, DUIs. Everything now goes away overnight.
I suppose. I mean, that is one of the arguments that people who support autonomous cars have talked about for years. I totally get that. If you've been out partying and you don't want to drive home and your car can drive you home, without you,
I'm saying we don't have no options. This is what they do.
No, I got you. Though I did see one of the autonomous cars in San Francisco drove into a giant area of wet concrete and sank.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
Well, it
Because we're talking
happened.
about-
It happened, though.
Yeah, but 30 years from now, do you think that's going to continue to happen?
No, probably not. I'm just making the point.
Right.
That happened. That's all, James.
I mean, yeah, it did happen. But how many times a human being done hit a house? Drove off the road.
No,
swayed
I
and
got
hit
you.
somebody.
I hear you. I hear you.
Once these things go totally autonomous, and the majority, if not all, vehicles are autonomous, all of this stuff that we have, because the average human being anymore, we can't handling heavy equipment, and a vehicle is a heavy equipment.
Sure.
We're too distracted in our lives anymore. We just can't.
Right. I got you, James. I appreciate your call. Dennis in Dayton. What's up, Dennis?
Hey, I think there should be some sort of tactical driver training in addition with getting a Class B with passenger endorsements,
Okay.
especially when you're driving a school bus, not just any other vehicle that has air brakes or anything like that, but
Right.
especially a school bus.
I don't know what's involved in all that, and what I heard this morning was that the school bus driver tried to evade the collision and still managed to get hit, and that's what caused it to overturn and kind of go sort of down that kind of an embankment, if you will, and slide.
And hindsight's 50-50 on that. But I have been in a head-on collision. I'm a tractor trailer driver for the United States Postal Service. I've been doing it for 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've almost encountered a head-on collision where someone was just driving down the wrong street at me. And instead of swerving, I just stopped the vehicle, and
Right.
that would have minimized the damage.
Right.
So I'm pretty sick and hurt when I heard this. It's terrible. Seatbelts, I understand it, but the woman that called before,
Yeah, the bus driver.
that's a lot.
I don't know what's going on with your phone, Dennis, but you're kind of waving in and out. So I appreciate your comment, though. John in Fairborn. What's up, John?
Not a lot. On that seatbelts, you took my thunder here. I was going to say, a lot of them things that catch fire, usually the other vehicle would catch fire.
Right.
And, these buses, they ain't made of steel anymore. They're all aluminum and fiberglass. And stuff just burns fast.
Yeah.
Trying to get kids out. I don't know if you see car fires anymore. They're cooked. before
Right.
The fire department ever
Yeah.
gets there.
I was people watching the live stream. Somebody brought up, and I don't know if you remember this, but this was a huge accident with more than 20 fatalities back in the late 80s. and
Yeah, I
it was
remember
it
that
was
up there on 75.
yeah, it was, I think it was a church group maybe coming back from Kings Island or
Oh, that
going to
was on
Kings Island or
71.
yeah, and and I just remember after that there was a big push to figure out and ask the question, are old school buses safe enough? Because not only for the students, but also a lot of the churches were, converting old school buses into church buses, which
Yeah,
is why
and
those kids were on that bus.
yeah, that was where the fuel tank was mounted. The spring went through it when it got hit
Right, right.
and ruptured the tank. Now the tanks are moved now more towards the center.
Yeah, yeah.
You know that they learned from that accident, but it cost the lives of about 14 to 20 of them. I remember that.
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned it was maybe 22, 23 on there, but
Yeah.
all right, John, I appreciate your call. Have a good one. 937-457-1290. We'll take more your calls on this sad day here in the Miami Valley. I just can't imagine the parents and what they're feeling right now. This was the first day of school for these kids. And if you remember as a student yourself, or obviously you've got kids, some of them aren't really excited about the first day of school, but many of them are, right? And they're excited to see their friends and to see their teacher and see their classroom, and just a horrible, tragic way to start the year.
It's the Evening Edge with Todd Hollst.
Call Todd now, 937-457-1290, or message him at Evening Edge Todd.
Locally grown, seriously funny on WHIO.
Oh man, oh man. I just can't imagine anything like that. I remember when I was in junior high school at Ferguson, it wasn't a school bus issue, it wasn't a school bus accident, but my school caught on fire. It wasn't a big fire. It was but it was in the shop class. And they, obviously evacuated the school. It was also like the middle of February, and it was 5 degrees outside, and there was, you know, 6 inches of snow left on the ground. And I remember the parents, then freaking out, coming to the school. Caroline, let me see. What's your question? Why don't they have bars that contain students similar to like carnival rides, like a metal bar that could be easily released? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if a metal bar. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know what the answer to that would be. Yeah.
Oh, we actually have a major caller on line 3. Her granddaughter was on the.
Let Ron know that I may run a little bit long. Folks, stand by. If the caller holds on the line, we've got a woman whose granddaughter was on the school bus. Ashley, I remember a few bomb scares. Pipe bombs. Back here on the Evening Edge, Monday through Friday from 5 to 7. Taking your calls, chatting about the tragedy this morning in Clark County, Northwestern schools. Bus accident claimed the life of one of their elementary students, and they actually just posted on their Facebook page that Northwestern local schools will not have classes tomorrow. They say, we will not have classes tomorrow. We will have grief counselors available for anyone who needs additional support during this tragedy. The elementary and the senior high school will be open at 8 a.m. for students, staff, and community members who need assistance and want to talk to a mental health specialist. Our hearts and prayers go out to the families that have been impacted by this tragedy. So Northwestern local schools No classes tomorrow, but the elementary and junior senior high will be open for students, staff, family, community members who may need to talk with a mental health professional. 937-457-1290. Scott in Greenville. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Beaver Creek Madman, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Hey, I used to work at a place that built UPS trucks and FedEx trucks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was a spray painter there, and so I didn't get much building. But we used to build steel bodies, and then they switched over and went to aluminum bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And them trucks was built so cheap to compete with prices of other people that built buses.
Right.
And I had a buddy that worked at the bus factory in Richmond, and he said they was the same way. But that metal, you could bend it. They're just so unsafe and
Right.
glued together and everything else. It's a tragedy. And my thoughts go out to their family because that'd be horrible.
So what you're saying is that the buses of today may not be built as strong as they used to be.
No, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
All right. Well, I appreciate your call, Scott. Have a good one. That line's open, 937-457-1290. We had a woman on hold during the break who said that her granddaughter was on that bus, and for some reason she dropped off. Her name was Ann. If you are listening, Ann, and would like to call back, I would certainly like to talk to you.
The Evening Edge with Todd Hollst.
Call Todd now, 937-457-1290, or message him at Evening Edge Todd.
Locally grown, seriously funny on WHIO.
Hey, Michael, how you doing? Michael, what's happening Thursday? Are you talking about next Thursday? Out at Levitt, the 31st? Or what are you doing fun? Ah, ha, ha. The Dark County Fair. Michael, I think you mean grew up, not threw up, though I would imagine too much fair food might make you throw up.
WHIO Triple Team Traffic is sponsored by Elk and Elk. Injury lawyers dedicated to every client every day. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Let's go back now with Parker Testa.
Well, Ron, we're looking at great overall travel conditions across the Miami Valley interstates.
It is the Evening Edge, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7. Tonight, we're talking about the tragedy this morning in Clark County. Northwestern local schools lost one of their students in a school bus accident, as I'm sure you've heard us talk about all day. Probably seen on TV, social media. We've been talking to folks about bus safety. Had a great call last hour from a bus driver, school bus driver, giving her perspective. In particular, talking about seatbelts on school buses. And every time that there's sadly, an accident like this, that's one of the first things people start talking about. Because, yes, logically, it seems like if you're going to be, toting kids around in a bus, they should be strapped in just like they are in your car. But, there's a lot of dangers with that. Some obvious ones is if there's a fire, trying to get all these kids who might be strapped in, unstrapped, and out the back door. That's nearly impossible for one person, probably even for two people. I know that some school districts might have tandem bus drivers. Maybe it's for special needs buses. I don't know if that's a thing that they do anymore. I don't know. I mean, they are struggling to find bus drivers every district you see, but we're talking about this tragedy this morning. This elementary student in their first day of school for the year. The school bus was traveling on Troy Road, which is also State Route 41 there in German Township. Apparently, a Honda Odyssey went left to center, coming towards the bus. The bus tried to swerve to miss that car, but they still connected. And it sent the bus rolling off the side of the road. And 20 other students were injured. There were a total of 52 on the bus. And the bus driver that I mentioned a few moments ago, I didn't realize that she said their buses, I think she said, 84? They're designed to carry 84 students. That is a lot of kids to keep in line and to keep safe. A lot of responsibility. And we've been talking about, the families of the students, obviously the family of this child that lost their life. But the driver of the school bus was also injured. 68-year-old man named Alfred Collier had minor injuries. So fortunately, it wasn't anything greater than that for him, but still, that's one of those things that people who work with children, whether they're school bus drivers, whether they're teachers, whether they're coaches. My mom was a lunch lady at Beaver Creek High School for many, many years. And those were her kids. They love those kids. They take care of those kids. So it's just a really tragic day. But we're talking about this and taking your phone calls, 937-457-1290. Peter in Fairborn. Hey, Peter.
Good afternoon. Have you ever driven a school bus? I have.
I have not. I've never driven a school bus.
The last time I did drive one was 1984. That's 38 years ago.
Wow.
The driver had a seatbelt. No passengers did. My advisor in college for my master's thesis did an investigation of every single fatal auto accident in the state of Ohio for 69 and 70.
Okay.
Feds paid for it. Every person who gets into an automobile accident has to consider when the impact happens, which way do you go? Some people would say, I'd like to be safely thrown out of the vehicle. Well, Dr. Engelman said most of the people that are thrown from the vehicle go through the windshield.
Right.
And they're shredded.
Yeah.
Or like a lady in Columbus, she got hit from the side and then sliding sideways, hit a tree. Her head rolled out of the window and the base of the window hit the bottom of her ear.
Oh, wow.
And broke her neck.
Wow.
90% of the people that, or 92% of the people that stay in the car walk away from it. I've been hit a number of times in some very severe accidents.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the belt on every single time. And as you may guess from the fact I'm talking to you, I'm still here.
Right.
The usual argument is, well, little children will not behave. They'll start using the seatbelts as weapons.
Well, that could happen. Yeah.
That's bunk, because the seatbelt isn't long enough that you can hit anybody but yourself. And if it comes to it, you call mom and dad in for a conference and say, here, guys, I don't remember when it was, about the same time as you've discussed that guy who rammed a school bus down on 75 south of Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was late 80s school. I think it was a church bus, school bus, whichever, going to Kings Island or coming back from.
The problem with that bus was the gas tank was exposed.
Right.
Well, the Air Force designed foam rubber that goes in the fuel tanks of an airplane. If it gets hit by a 57 millimeter Soviet round, that airplane is going to explode. You put this open cell foam, it's 2 or 3% of the volume of the tank. It stops the explosion when you get hit by a high power round. Instead of the fuel tank exploding, you have a fire like they have at President Kennedy's Eternal Flame. The fuel in the tank burns off, and then you just keep on going.
Gotcha.
There are trivial, and I talked to the company, can't think, Quest Foam, something like that. I can't remember the name of the company. It would cost about $15 for every car, every truck on the road to put their foam in the tank to prevent
Gotcha. Okay.
fire and explosions.
I understand.
Which is half of the argument you've heard.
Right. I got you. So you support seatbelts in school buses.
And if the kids don't want to use them, you talk to their parents.
Gotcha.
Let the mom and dad be the enforcers. That's usually a lot more relevant than a 72-year-old driver walking up to him and says, hey, kid, please put the belt on.
I got you. All right, Peter, I appreciate your call. That line's open, 937-457-1290. Yeah, I would love to know, because what the real answer is with seatbelts in school buses. Because Channel 7 ran a story, about this, and they had some. I didn't catch who it was, but it was some official, in air quotes, talking about the safety of school buses, and that we have been complacent for too long, and we need to make these school buses safer. And maybe it is seatbelts. I don't know. That's for an engineer to figure out. But if you'd like to comment on this or anything else, 937-457-1290. We've got some other stuff to talk about as well.
It's the Evening Edge with Todd Hollst.
Call Todd now, 937-457-1290, or message him at Evening Edge Todd.
Locally grown, seriously funny on WHIO.
Back here on the Evening Edge, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7, taking your calls about the tragic school bus accident this morning in the Northwestern Local School District there in German Township, there in Clark County. Student lost his life. Let me back up. I said his. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. They lost their life. Just to clarify. 20 other students were injured. And from what I understand, I think I heard in Ron's one of his newscasts is that the all but one of the students that were treated at Children's have been released. I think there's one remaining, right? Okay. So hopefully they will, be on the mend very quickly. I did mention this earlier. If you happen to be in that particular school district, the schools are closed tomorrow. Well, let me back up. No classes tomorrow. However, the elementary school and the junior senior high will be available. It will be open, and there will be mental health professionals there to help with grieving. If you are a student or parent or someone that works at the school, and they're even offering it to community members, you are invited to come tomorrow and talk to a mental health professional. 937-457-1290. Lee in Dayton. What's up, Lee?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Todd. I do appreciate you kind of talking about this subject and let it being, somewhat discussed in your program. Normally it's not normal, but because it not only affects our community, obviously it affects the families that are involved, but oftentimes I've wondered, being a person who's been in school buses growing up like all of us, you wonder why are there seat belts in our cars and they're not in school buses. And I've never understood why a group or a federal agency or a state agency thinks that's okay and that shouldn't be the case. And not to say that could this have prevented a death in this situation? Maybe, maybe not. You would hope it would, but I would think that seat belts on a school bus would be okay. And how come, or who's responsible for saying it's not? And what data do they provide to say it's okay for students to have these big seat chairs as if that's going to be something that's very safe? If you've got it in your cars, why not in a school bus? And I don't think it's too much to ask. And I've always wondered, why has this not been employed? I don't have an answer. But...
Well, I think unfortunately, Lee, and I'm no expert on this, and I'm just, talking off the cuff here. Like anything else, if you want to put seat belts in a school bus that holds 84 students, that's 84 seat belts times how many school buses in a district, times how many school buses in a state. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think on some level it comes down to the dollars. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way at all. But that's the reality with so many things. It's like, why do certain things happen? Well, it would cost too much money to make it happen. All right, well, then let's try to come up with some other way so we don't have to put seatbelts in buses. We'll make the seats bigger and more padding. Maybe that's what we'll do. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I will say this, and I remember this a few times because I played sports and we would take the school buses to games, and lots of times we had the seat to ourselves, right? We weren't crammed in there with other kids, like on your way to school or way home. Seat belts didn't help. And I'm not trying to make a joke here because potholes are sometimes a joke on this show. Seatbelts would help you from jarring yourself on some of our roads in this area, because I remember a couple of times hitting some, the bus driver would hit a pothole, and those buses don't take potholes very easily.
Yeah.
And I remember that. So, I mean, it's obviously not the same thing as what happened today, but I think your point is taken. It's like, what's the real reason? Is it really because the kids they think are safer without the seatbelts, or is it just a money issue?
Well, I think, in retrospect, in this case, I think if you would ask any parent with children, I am one, you're one, all of us are. I'm willing to pay the extra dollars to make sure there's seatbelts that save lives in a school bus.
Yeah.
What's the extra cost? If it saves a life, that cost is worth it. And I think somebody in the federal, state, and level needs to consider this. Otherwise, seatbelts would just, chairs that just extra padding and tall. When a school bus turns over, kids are going to fly.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened today. That's what happened today. Right?
Yeah.
That's what happened.
It's unfortunately, that's the case. And it's sad to hear this when you think, if we could save lives by putting seatbelts in there, why should that not be considered? And if cost is a big problem, match that with a human life and then consider.
Right. Yeah. I got you, Lee.
Yeah.
Thanks for your call. Have a great one.
It's the Evening Edge with Todd Hollst.
Call Todd now, 937-457-1290, or message him at Evening Edge Todd.
Locally grown, seriously funny on WHIO.
All righty. Let's see. Yeah, Michael, I'm not sure who made the bus. I'm going to see if I can find the picture. There is actually a photo gallery somewhere I saw that had a bunch of photos from the scene. There it is. Let's see if I can. No, this isn't going to help. These photos are the from the air. But I saw a video. Oh, well, it's actually CBS is covering it right now. It's on the CBS Evening News right now. Back here on the Evening Edge, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7. Taking your calls, chatting about the tragic school bus accident this morning in German Township in Clark County. Elementary school student lost their life in this accident. First day of school for the year, and just tragic and horrible, and I can't imagine what the parents are going through. Channel 7 has had a lot of coverage on this today, obviously, and they talked to a mom who's, I guess her kids had just gotten on the school bus and was heading down the road, and she was going about her day, doing her thing, and then she saw, I guess, police vehicles and emergency vehicles go flying the same direction a few minutes later. And she decided to get in her car and follow, and her kids were on that bus. I can't imagine what she was feeling in that moment. The terror. Both of her children are okay. I think one was, I think she said in the interview, was injured. But just a tragic day. And my producer, Logan, just told me something, and I don't I hope that this is not true, but he told me that someone at the scene managed to, I guess, take a picture of the child who was killed. And that picture is now making its way over social media. Just disgusting. Disgusting. If that is true. And sadly, it probably is. It probably is. 937-457-1290. Art in Dayton. What's up, Art?
Well, I think I have an idea of what the issue is as far as seatbelts goes.
Okay.
And that whole picture thing, absolutely ghoulish.
Yeah. If that's true, I don't understand people. I don't get it. I don't understand why they get off on that sort of thing. But anyway, what's your thoughts on the seatbelt issue, Art?
What size are children?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
What size are children? How heavy are they?
Oh, I mean, elementary school, they could be first grade to fifth grade, probably anywhere between 30, 40 pounds to 100 pounds or more.
Yeah, and let's not forget about our kindergartners.
Right,
Probably
right.
still using booster seats.
In some instances, probably so. Yeah.
So the big logistical problem would be is how do you load up a busload of children who are ranging from 40 pounds to maybe 80, 90 pounds,
Right.
including high schoolers.
Yeah.
And they do kind of mix them up on some of these. I mean, well, the high schoolers and they get on separate buses, but all the little ones that get on my bus, well, not my bus, but my granddaughter's bus. Some of them are big, some of them are small.
Right.
How do they load them up and get them into the right size seat belts? An improperly adjusted belt can harm just as, badly as not wearing a belt.
Right. Right.
And they never really did say how this child died, which, I mean, again, kind of ghoulish, but
I
seat
said
belts even helped.
I said earlier, Art, and I don't know if I heard it from a reporter on the scene or if it was an interview with the troopers that they did a press conference, or if I saw it somewhere. I just don't remember, but I remember something about that the child was ejected from the bus. And if you see it, it rolled over on its side. I can completely see that happening because it's hot. It's hot. What I was thinking, it's very, very hot, right? And the windows on the bus are down because there's no air conditioning on the buses. At least they weren't when I was going to school, and I doubt that they spring for air conditioning. I'm not sure, but the windows were probably down and not being belted in when that bus started to roll over. Kids went flying in every direction, and it just happened to maybe get tossed out the window that was open. I don't know if that's what happened, and I'm not trying to make that conjecture, but it sounds like that could be.
Seats are pretty tall. I've sat in a school bus before because the military loves to use them to shuttle us around, and those seat tops are over my head.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly a short person.
Yeah.
So
and that's one of the reasons, and I mentioned this last hour. I found some information from the Highway Safety Transportation Administration, and they were talking about the fact that the way the seats are, they say extra padding on the seats, and because of the height, it keeps the kids, at least according to their website, keeps them sort of all together in this compartment where they are safer in those instances if the bus is hit. Now,
front or rear impact,
probably, yeah,
safe.
Right, exactly.
Side impact, rollover, all bets are off, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm sure that's the case. But Art, I appreciate your call. John in Columbus, what's up, John? Hello, John. John going once. John gone. Jerry in Greenville. What's up, Jerry?
Yes, sir. Former bus driver, Indiana and Ohio, and I currently have the Class A CDL, so on both sides of the driving.
Gotcha.
But anyway, the seatbelt issue lobbied against by the bus drivers themselves. Every year we have to go to a safety meeting, and they evaluate accidents and things from last year and such as that.
Right.
But there are actually drivers advocacy groups that the groups are always pushing against having the seatbelts. Most of the bus drivers are all, hey, no seatbelts again this year. And
You're fading in.
Passenger buses have air conditioning. Usually, those are the big no-nos buses. The 66 passenger is like was in the accident today. That's your run-of-the-mill, go to school, rural school bus.
Right.
And seatbelts. The compartment idea worked great with collisions, but rollovers or something like it, yeah. And I always wanted seatbelts because by law, we have to keep the kids down in their seats.
Right.
That's the only way they can be safe.
Yeah.
Well, there's usually some knucklehead that doesn't want to be down in his seat.
Yeah.
So the seatbelt would alleviate that issue. And these kids today have grown up with seatbelts. When I was a kid, we didn't have seatbelts in cars.
Right.
But these kids, they've had baby seats and all. They go in on the bus the first day. They're looking for a seatbelt.
They're I was just going to say they've
serious.
been conditioned. They've been conditioned to expect that, and I'm sure there would be some that didn't comply, but most of them probably would, more so than what I did, or probably you would have.
Yeah, there's one or two standouts that usually don't want to obey the rules. You know.
Yeah.
You always remember those kids' names and
Right.
the good kids. You know, they didn't give you any trouble.
Right.
But seriously, the bus drivers have lobbied against seatbelts since 1991. I mean, I remember at the school meeting, they were clapping because we weren't going to have seatbelts again this year.
And what was the reason, though? Was it just convenience because they don't want to be responsible for making sure every kid is?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And the time constraints, you're under the gun with time, especially in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, if your pickup's 8:01, you need to be in there within a minute or two.
Right.
Well, if somebody's not buckling in, it could slow them down. But like I say, once they got used to it, and like the kids today are used to seatbelts, so
yeah,
I don't see the issue.
I got you, Jerry. I appreciate your call. Real quickly, Steve in Dayton. Steve, what's up?
Hey, got a comment for you.
Yeah.
In reference to the seat belts.
Yes.
Okay, are they going to put them on all the RTA buses and all the Greyhound buses and all the buses across the country? You realize how many other buses do not have seat belts?
Well, yeah, I know. I don't know. I think it would be. Here's what I would say. I think I can see where someone would argue that the school buses are one category and something like the RTA is a different category.
But it's mass transportation regardless.
Well, that's true, but then
on one, you got to put them on them all.
I guess you could put them then on the subways in Chicago and New York and LA and Frisco, wherever, you know.
Yep.
I know. So, yeah, but that's what I said earlier. I think sadly this could be a situation where if somebody really, really, drilled down to figure out why there aren't seat belts, it probably comes down to cost, just like anything else, unfortunately.
And that's what it's going to be.
Yep. All right, Steve, thanks for your call, man.
Sorry for the person that passed. Have a good evening.
Oh, no problem.
It's the Evening Edge with Todd Hollst.
Call Todd now, 937-457-1290, or message him at Evening Edge Todd.
Locally grown, seriously funny on WHIO.
You know, I didn't understand what he was saying at the end. He said, "I'm sorry about the person who passed." I thought he said something about, "I'm sorry that I asked," or something. And I was like, "What?" It's all good. So, I don't yeah. Oy. You know, Caroline, I was thinking about what you commented when I was talking to that last caller, and I just didn't get to the point where I was going to comment on it. But you know, on carnival rides or amusement park rides in general, um, a lot of those gates are all controlled by air. I'm not an engineer. I don't know exactly how it works, but I know they're not electronic. I think they're somehow controlled by air. And like when the ride starts, they hit whatever and it forces the gates to come up, right? And then when the ride's over, I think they hit it, hit whatever button, and I could be wrong on that, but a lot of those rides that I've seen that have those gates that come up and then go back down, I mean, there's electricity going into them, but they're not, you know, super high tech. Right. That's what I'm saying, Caroline, like a compressor of some sort. My tank top is crooked underneath my shirt. Back here on the Evening Edge, Monday through Friday from 5 to 7. Just a quick clarification. At the very end of the last segment, the caller made the comment that he was sorry for the person who passed. And I snickered. What I thought he said, honest to God, was, I'm sorry I asked, because he was asking, bringing up questions about money and seatbelts and all that. And that's what I thought he said, and I just responded, but he was actually passing on condolences, and I just misheard what he said. So I apologize. I wasn't snickering at his comment by any stretch. Candy in Kettering. What's up, Candy?
Yes, I was discussing this very topic before I left home a little while ago, and my daughter was saying someone on Facebook had put the comment that if all of those kids were buckled into their seats and a bus caught fire, the bus driver would never be able to get them all out.
Yeah, and that came up last hour, and that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. Though somebody on the live stream made a good comment about, like, on carnival rides, there's a bar that kind of comes up and keeps people in the ride, and then when the ride's over, the bar goes back down. So I'm wondering if in a situation like that, if you were able to, having control over all of those bars, you could just hit a button and the kids would be able to get out. I don't know, but I appreciate your call, Candy. Well, thanks for listening tonight, Logan. We're just going to end the show. I'm not going to play my little exit music. Have a nice Monday evening and hug your children. Someone's not getting that opportunity tonight. Thanks for watching tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Have a good evening. Thank you.